Nothing says comfort like a warm bowl of soup, especially when life gets busy and it's so cold outside. Today I'm sharing favorite soup recipes that are easy, family-friendly, and packed with flavor. There's something here for everybody. This video is sponsored in part by Thrive Market, my go-to for better ingredients delivered right to your door. I'll share more about how you can save with them later, so stay tuned. Let's get cooking. You guys already know we love chicken noodle soup. We're gonna take just plain chicken noodle soup and make a creamy version. I am so excited. I've got chicken thighs here in my crock pot insert. I have made chicken noodle soup plenty of times with chicken breasts. Feel free to do this whatever way you want. This is 3 to 4-ish thighs. And we're just gonna start adding ingredients. Open up this can here of roasted red bell peppers. These are so delicious in a soup like this. So we're gonna add approximately a ½ cup. Please feel free to measure this. I'm just going, like I said, I'm going approximately. Okay, we've got a lot of different little spices that are gonna go in this. I'm gonna start with parsley, and we need 1 teaspoon of parsley. And I actually have my teaspoon measurer over here, so we're actually gonna measure this. So teaspoon of parsley. We're gonna add about a 3/4 or so of a teaspoon of salt. We are adding some oregano. Technically, we only need like a 1/4 teaspoon of oregano, but we really like it, so I'm gonna go more toward a half. I'm also going more toward a half with the basil. We are adding lots of good flavor. All right, and then we need to add in some minced garlic, and the recipe actually calls for a teaspoon. You guys know I always add a little bit more than what a recipe calls for though. So we're going closer to like 1½. Now we need 4 cups of chicken broth. I'm using chicken bone broth. We're gonna cook ours on high for 3 hours. You can also do low for 6 hours, but it is 1 o'clock, so we're definitely gonna do high. And then we'll come back, shred the chicken, and move on. This chicken has been in the crock pot. Everything's been cooking for about 3½ hours, actually. We're gonna take the chicken out and shred it and then put it back into the crock pot. And then you can actually probably shred it just directly in the crock pot. I just wanna make sure there's not any fatty pieces that I need to pull off, so that's why I'm pulling it out. If you're using chicken breasts, you probably can just shred it with 2 forks straight inside of the crock pot. So we can add this back in. You can use whole milk or light cream, but I'm actually gonna use half and half for this, about the same effect, and we're adding about 3/4 of a cup. Now I'm also gonna pull out a little bit of the liquid, and we're gonna mix in some, this is tapioca flour, but you can just use cornstarch if that's what you have, about a tablespoon or so. This is just gonna help to thicken it up a little bit. So I'm gonna pull some of that liquid out, and just adding some of the liquid here separately is gonna help kind of like blend it all together, and then you don't get any chunks of that cornstarch or the tapioca flour straight into your crock pot. See how that just nicely and quickly blends it all together, and now we can just pour it in. Now you can use whatever kind of pasta you want, but I'm gonna be using egg noodles. Put all of those in, and I'm also going to add in some spinach. We're gonna give about 1 cup of fresh spinach a quick chop, and then toss that in there as well. You can skip that if you don't like spinach. It's just kind of an easy add. This doesn't have to be a perfect or a pretty chop at all. It's all gonna get really wilted into this soup. Okay, put all that in there. Let's just give this a quick stir. And then the lid's gonna go back on for about 20 minutes or so. You're basically just looking for your noodles to become al dente. You're looking for that perfect noodle texture. All right, this thickened up just a little bit, like the exact amount that you would want for a soup like this. Just add a little bit of this Parmesan cheese on the top. And there you go. Look how delicious this looks. Let's give it a try. I think I've let this cool for long enough to try it. It's so perfect, especially since today it's actually very cold outside. It's like our first cold day of the year. That cornstarch added just the right amount of thickness to it, so it's still soupy, absolutely, but it just added a little bit. All those Italian flavors are delicious. I really like this one. Friends, I just got my Thrive Market box in the mail, and this could not be better timing because Typically in my pantry, as you can see, I have all these containers where we store noodles because it's just such a quick and easy dinner or a side item to throw together with things. And I am almost completely out. Also, I had to look back before I started filming this when it came in the mail because I was thinking, I wonder how long I've actually been using Thrive Market. The first order that I found in this account was placed in 2021. This is something that we use and love and have been using for quite some time. It is so easy and convenient. You can set orders to auto ship if there's things that you use regularly. Things like parchment paper, which you guys see that we are often out of, that should be on auto ship for me, absolutely. I'm so excited about some of the things that I got this time. These potato crisps by The Good Company, my son can actually have them, so that is awesome. You guys know how selective I am with ingredients, and with Thrive Market, it's perfect because I don't have to worry about that. It's so much easier for me to shop with the highest quality standards in the industry. Another thing is you can also sort by diet type, so there's 90 plus different diets. Let's say you're gluten-free, you can sort by gluten-free, and all the groceries that come up are going to be gluten-free, meaning you don't have to sit there and read food labels and make sure that everything is gonna be appropriate for the diet that you're on because it's already done for you. I genuinely love Thrive Market. I tell people about it in our personal lives too, and I'm here sharing it with you because it's just genuinely something that we love. If you're looking for organic, high quality ingredients at a great price, you have to try this. If you use my link, which is thrivemarket.com/feedingthebirds, you're gonna get an additional 30% off of your order, plus a free gift worth up to $60. You can stock up now, just like I am, and fill your pantry because I am about to make sure that we've got all the staples ready to go for the next several months, probably. I'm gonna make an easy Thai curry chicken soup. I'm actually making this, it's currently 7:51, and I need to leave for church in the next few minutes. This recipe is not intended to be made in the crock pot. I'm just adapting it for the crock pot because we're gonna be at church, and it makes things a lot easier for us when we can come home and it's ready to go. So I'm starting here. I've already laid out the majority of my stuff. I think I still need to get coconut milk. I'm starting with some ginger paste, and we go heavy on ginger whenever a recipe calls for it because we like it so much. So the recipe calls for a teaspoon, but I'm going closer to a tablespoon. Also want to add some minced garlic. I'm going to use 3 cloves. One of them is really small though, so I'm not even sure it counts as a full clove. Now, if you want to add onions to yours, I would suggest taking those over and sauteing them on your stovetop. Just give them a saute and a little bit of oil and then add them here. Obviously, we're not adding onions, so I don't have to worry about doing that part. Red Thai curry paste. Now, if this is not something that you keep, you definitely want to pick it up for this recipe. It's not going to be the same if you don't use it, and it calls for 4 tablespoons. So it's one of those things where I think the expiration, it lasts a pretty good amount of time. Yeah, this is March 2025, and we've bought this, we've had this for at least 6 months. So if you're gonna make any type of curry foods, I would suggest getting something like this. So about 4 tablespoons, which actually will probably almost finish off this jar. I usually get in between 2 and 3 recipes from 1 jar. Also, I think that you can get them in medium, mild, spicy, all that kind of stuff. This one is, it says medium on the front. All right, that's about 4 tablespoons. I am gonna add the juice of about 1 lime. And then this is bone broth. Actually, I need to take the fat off. So whenever we make our own bone broth, I usually put it in the fridge for a couple of days before we use it, and it really only takes overnight, but the fat will rise to the top. So if you want a less fat version of bone broth, chicken broth, whatever it is that you're making, you can just scrape it off the top. You don't have to because, I mean, it's good fat, but if you want a lower fat version, you can do that. So we need about 4 cups of liquid in here. And that's not quite enough, but I do have another one, so let me get that out. Now, actually, I don't know that I'm gonna do any more than that because we're gonna put coconut milk in, and I don't want it to be too liquidy at the end. Okay, I feel like this is a little dangerous in a white shirt, but I'm gonna give this a stir. Probably should have put an apron on. Okay, I'm also adding 1 full can of coconut milk. This is full fat. Another reason why we remove some of the fat off the bone broth, because we're gonna get it in the coconut milk. Now I'm gonna be adding basil when we garnish, But I want to cook some basil as well. So I'm gonna put, this is purple basil from my garden. I'm just gonna put some in here and it'll just add that wonderful flavor. And then I'll pull some more off for garnish later. Just give that a stir. Now, this is some chicken that has already been pulled off the bone. So we're just gonna add it in here. And it's already cooked. It's just gonna go through that reheat process in the crock pot. Now, I'm only gonna cook mine on low just because really everything in here is cooked. When we get home, we'll throw the rice noodles in and they'll cook as well. But we really don't need to cook it on high. Unless, of course, you want to make this like in 2 hours or maybe even an hour and a half, then cook it on high. But we don't need to cook it like that. It'll be 4 hours before we're home anyway. Okay, now this can go in the insert can go into the crock pot. And like I said, we're just gonna cook it on low until we're home, and then we'll throw those rice noodles in and finish it up. All right, friends, I need to know, are you quick to change out of dressy church clothes, or do you leave those on all day long? Because sometimes, depending on what I'm wearing, I will sit in it for a while, but your girl loves their comfy stuff. All right, we are gonna add some rice noodles. These are pad thai rice noodles, and they should take 30 to 45 minutes maybe to kind of soften up. I'm gonna be careful. I actually was thinking about adding 2 packages of these, but they don't reheat super well. So if we end up having a lot of broth left, I wanna be sure that we can add more rice noodles in tomorrow for second servings, as opposed to just reheating these. If you've ever had rice noodles the next day, they're not fantastic. It's sort of like ramen noodles. They're not great the next day. Let's just jiggle that around, put the lid on, and we'll come back. I'll check them in about 30 minutes. Okay, so this is a Thai soup. The, what are they called? Rice noodles, like the pad Thai type of noodles.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know the best way to eat this. You asked if we should have a fork.
I feel like it should almost be a fork.
I said it's a spoon,
or
but
chopsticks.
Maybe chopsticks? I don't know. I don't know how you would eat this with chopsticks.
Oh, man. I just did it.
It's funny, though.
I did it.
I think you kind of need a fork. You kind of need a spoon. I can't get it.
It's both. Serve with both, fork and spoon.
It's good, though.
It is good. I want to taste some of the broth by itself.
So you guys saw, I think I added a little less liquid than the recipe actually called for. And I do think once you cook the noodles, you need a little bit more liquid. So you could add more in. I do think also it needs a touch of salt. You don't think so?
For once, I say no on the no more salt on this. Usually, I think it does need more salt. And I think the sauce or the broth is a preference thing to me.
Like not needing more.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like less broth in any soup I have.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think this works really good.
There's like almost no broth in the leftovers. Also, definitely don't have enough broth to add the second pack of noodles in tomorrow for reheating. Whatever we have tonight, that's just how it's going to be.
Well, those type of noodles will soak up a broth,
They've definitely soaked it up. Yep. So, but the flavors are really good. It's definitely very curry, Thai. You get all those type of flavors. Adding that basil on the top, so you've got the cooked basil in the soup, but adding a little bit of fresh basil on top, I love that flavor. So if you like fresh basil, I do think that that's the way to go. But yeah, this is a great option, made in the crock pot. I didn't have to mess around with it or do anything. It's really good.
It's a good night to dig into something like this too. Yeah. Like 40s, getting into 30s pretty quick, and rainy all day. Sun didn't show itself.
Yep, definitely. Tonight for dinner, we are making a sausage andouille gnocchi kind of soup thing. I'm actually gonna make it a little bit earlier because we have volleyball tonight. This way we can come home afterward and just kind of reheat it really quickly, but it'll be ready to go. I am using this Niman Ranch no sugar added, all natural, andouille sausage. And sometimes this is a little hard to find in my grocery store, but when I can find it, I usually will buy a couple of them because it is very good. We actually really enjoy this. Actually, everything from this brand I have enjoyed. So pick that up if you can find it. And I think I'm just gonna use all of it. It's kind of a lot actually, but that'll be all right. Maybe we'll have leftovers for lunch tomorrow. Also, this doesn't have any nitrates or nitrites, and there's no antibiotics, hormones, nothing like that. So my son can eat these, which is great. He cannot eat a lot of the andouille sausage out there. All right, so let's just cut these into coins. And I'm not gonna be like, I mean, I'm cutting them, but I'm not trying to be perfect about it. It's interesting because I always say things like my son can have it, and that's true. I mean, that's kind of what started us on a journey of reading food labels all the time, but the reality is I don't really want to eat stuff, you know, that's filled with fillers and things like that either. So that's how it got started. We were looking for foods for my son. I've got some sun-dried tomatoes here. I'm gonna go ahead and cut those up. And I would say use however many you like. Let's go with, I guess once they're all cut up, I probably want maybe a 1/4 cup or so. I definitely should have put an apron on for cutting sun-dried tomatoes. We'll just attempt to not have this all over. Okay, another thing you might want to prep at this point if you're using it is the onion. So you'd want to cut up some onion. Obviously, we're not using that. If you're new here, my husband doesn't like onion, so we always leave that out. Let's head over to the stovetop where I'm actually going to go ahead and put the sausage into a big pot and let it sear, or let it saute, I guess would be the right word. And we just want to get some nice browned edges to these, and then we can move on. Okay, turn my heat on to like a medium high. Let that heat up a little bit and we'll throw in that sausage. Okay, the pot is nice and hot. Let's go ahead and put the sausage in. I am not adding any oil to my pot, but if you feel like you need to, that's totally fine. It'll just help them kind of sear up, but I think these are gonna release enough fat on their own that I'm not gonna need it. Okay, I'm just gonna separate these out a little bit so that they can potentially all get a good sear. And we'll let this cook for a few minutes before we add some more stuff. All right, let's add in the sun-dried tomatoes. I'm just gonna let them cook for just a couple of minutes, just kind of releasing all that flavor. This is what you wanna see with that sausage though. You want that nice brown color on there. That's gonna add so much flavor. And then this is also where you would add onions if you were cooking with onion. Now I am gonna pull out a little bit of the grease at the bottom just because that's a little bit much for what I want. Okay, I did turn my heat down to a medium low, and I'm gonna add in some minced garlic here. I'll just use the little garlic thingy. Okay, I'm also gonna add a little bit of Cajun seasoning and then just mix all this together. That's about a tablespoon. Use whatever your favorite Cajun seasoning is, or you can easily just make one up with spices that you already have in your spice cabinet. Okay, that really is all the garlic needs. So it was about 1 minute. Now I'm gonna add in about 3 cups of bone broth, chicken broth, whatever your preference is. Okay, I actually just split the difference there. I had some beef bone broth in my fridge, so I wanted to use a portion of that. But overall, we need 3 cups of broth. Also, keep in mind if you're using bone broth instead of chicken broth or like a vegetable broth, it has less sodium in it, so you might want to salt this soup just based on that. Okay, so that's about 3 cups. And then we're also going to add some water as well. Now, mine might end up being a little darker than yours, just based on the fact that I used some beef broth, or beef bone broth. Let's do a touch more of this. Okay, I'm gonna start with 1 cup of water and see what it looks like. Okay, we're still on a medium here. I'm gonna add about 1 cup of heavy cream. And about 4 ounces of cream cheese. The recipe that I am kind of using says 8 ounces of cream cheese. I don't really feel like that's necessary for the amount that we have in here, so I'm gonna go with a little less. I've added in the cream cheese. I've pulled some of this tatsoi off of my garden. I'm gonna toss that in as well. Now, I'm not gonna add the gnocchi until we get home from volleyball. So I'm starting the process now, but then that will be the last part, and that only takes like 3 to 5 minutes. So this will be basically ready to go until we get home, just making things easier because it's typically a little later when we get home, then I don't have to make the whole thing. Now, obviously you can add a lot more of this if you want. I actually think I got most of it off of my garden because we've been using this a lot lately. Okay, just stir that in. And obviously you don't need to use tatsoi, you can use spinach. That would be your substitute. You could also use kale though. Kale would be totally fine. All right, so I'm just gonna let this continue to work, let that cream cheese melt. And then when we come home, we'll add in the gnocchi. All right, we've got a low boil here. I made some homemade gnocchi the other day. Let's add these in. It only takes about 3 to 5 minutes for these to cook, and then the soup will be ready. Now, when they're cooked, they rise to the top. So that's how you know. I am on a medium-high heat right now. Okay, so you can see the gnocchi has pretty much all floated to the top, which means that it is done and we are ready to serve. So this really took about a total of, reheating it back up and then adding in the gnocchi. We are looking at maybe 11 minutes or so. Maybe not even that long. Mine was also frozen because I had it in the freezer today, so it might take a little less time if it's not frozen. Gnocchi soup with andouille sausage, sun-dried tomatoes.
Is there any kind of flavor on that sausage?
Andouille.
Is that a flavor?
I think that's like the type of sausage and the seasonings that are with it.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's super hot, y'all, like crazy hot, so.
I think I feel about gnocchi the same way I feel about, gnocchi soup, the same way I feel about oyster stew, which is one of my favorites, but it's just comforting.
It is comforting for sure. It's gonna be real hot.
And yeah, I see a sun-dried tomato in here.
Sun-dried tomatoes, yes.
Get one of them. There we go. That's a good bite. Mm-hmm. That's a good bite. Nailed it.
I really just want to try the broth.
Yeah. Well, and I saw that broth. That's why I cut some sourdough slices for us.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the broth is so good. So good. You need to try just the broth by itself. Mm-hmm. So the sausage is ever so why can't I talk? Ever so slight. It's the slightest bit spicy.
It's ever so.
It's ever so, yes. It's just a little bit spicy, which is nice. We actually really like that.
Oh, man.
The broth is so good. This is the
really
forever
good.
base soup broth because of that.
You also get, for me, that flavor of the sun-dried tomato.
Yeah.
A hint of it.
The gnocchi, so I homemade this. It was my first time making it. It's really good. I do think it needs a little bit more flour in it. Just
what
preference.
does gnocchi grow on?
It is, are you serious? You're not being serious.
Maybe.
Oh my goodness.
I guess we'll never know until the camera's off.
Well, those of you that don't know what it is potato and flour.
Knew it.
So, but this is very, very good. Especially if it's a chilly night. Obviously, I'm not in my chilly clothes. It was actually kind of warm today. It's getting a little chillier tonight.
And I heard next week here is going to be 40s in the morning and evening.
So anyway, we never know.
That time of year.
It's definitely that time of year. But definitely a really good recipe. Don't feel like you have to home make the gnocchi at all. We have many times purchased it and it's very, very easy to use. But I wanted to try it this week, so I made it. Tonight for dinner, we are having a cozy autumn fall soup. It's gonna be so good. Wild rice, Italian sausage. You can make this vegetarian if you want, but we are gonna add Italian sausage because it is so good in there. I am making mine in the Instant Pot, but please, if you do not have an Instant Pot, it is the exact same thing over on the stovetop. Do not let it stop you if you don't have an Instant Pot, okay? The only difference between making this in your Instant Pot and making it over on the stovetop is about 15 to 20 minutes cook time. That's literally it. Every single instruction is the same, so do not skip this if you don't have an Instant Pot. You'll regret it. It's so good. Trust me on this one, okay? Now, before we make anything in the Instant Pot, I have already prepped and cut and got everything chopped and ready to go. I've got some sweet potatoes here. I went ahead and peeled and diced these so that they would be ready. This is 2 large sweet potato. You could probably just go with 1, but I really wanna make this vegetable heavy. I'm just feeling it tonight. I'm feeling like we just need vegetables. You know how sometimes you get that way? I've also peeled and cut up or diced 2 carrots. And then I've also diced up 2 celery stalks. So you, again, use however much you wanna use. That's just how much we're using for this recipe. Now I'm gonna take this sweet Italian ground pork sausage. I'm gonna use the saute function on my Instant Pot and get this cooked up. So now if you were making this over on your stovetop, you're just gonna saute it in a pan, in a Dutch oven, in a pot, whatever you wanna cook this in. Honestly, this is probably a 1-pot recipe, which is fabulous. Also, can I just be real with you guys for a second? I love homeschooling. I genuinely do. As with anything that we do in life, there are good days and there are bad days. And today was not our best day. Was not an award-winning day by any means. But my husband, my wonderful husband, brought home some crumble cookies for me. It's my favorite one. If you don't know about crumble, I do not like their chocolate chip cookie at all. Some of their specialty cookies are really good. I'm just telling you a story while this thing's heating up, okay? I don't remember what this one is called, but it is my favorite. I think it's French toast. Oh, buttermilk pancake, that's what it is. Now that we went on that huge tangent, let's go ahead and cook up the ground pork. Also, listen, don't come at me because if you try one and you get one that's gross, I'm really sorry. There's some that I love, but there's some I've tried that I don't love. Whenever I use my Instant Pot, I need a stool. Y'all, you know I'm only 5'1", and I feel like I have to stand on my tiptoes to get inside of this thing and make whatever I'm making. Now I also just decided that because I have it and I just love thyme so much, I'm gonna add in some thyme to this while it's cooking. If you don't have it, that's totally okay. It's just, now that I have an indoor garden, that's so wonderful. I love to add these herbs. I feel like thyme is just one of those amazing fall flavors. I mean, obviously it's an any time of the year flavor, but it just adds the best aroma and flavors. If you hear noises, my dishwasher is almost done and it makes a lot of noise right at the end. This is looking really good. I'm gonna start adding in my other ingredients so that we can get that sauteing as well. I'm gonna toss in just a little bit of butter though. I feel like it's gonna be so good if I just a touch. We're gonna add in all of our vegetables. So we've got the carrot that we talked about. I'm gonna saute that. The celery, saute that. All of our sweet potatoes. I am also adding in some mushrooms. These are baby Bella mushrooms. You don't have to add in, you don't have to add in any of this obviously, but we're gonna add in some of those and you just give them a little rinse and they're good to go. You guys know, you've heard me say it before, my daughter does not like mushrooms, which I think that's a pretty common thing for people to not like, but she never complains or anything. She just picks them out, which is wonderful because the rest of us really all love mushrooms. Now I'm also going to mix in a couple of minced garlic cloves. Now the one thing I'll say about the Instant Pot is you do want to make sure that you are scraping the bottom of it when you're sauteing. I don't know about you guys, but I get the burn notification way too often for how unused this thing is. It's not like it's that I use it all the time and I need a new insert or anything like that. I don't know. I'm very thankful for this thing because it's come in handy many times for larger events where I need a big thing to put stuff in. But I still don't know that I have figured out fully how to operate it. This already smells so amazing. Oh my goodness. This is gonna be a ton of soup, by the way. Let's just let those saute for a couple of minutes and then we're gonna add in a few more things. Okay, here's an ingredient that might seem a little odd, but trust me, it is like it's an Old Bay or some sort of seafood stew type of seasoning. We've got about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half. I'm adding this because it brings out amazing flavors in all of this. Now you can skip that if maybe you feel like it's a little too much, maybe you don't care for that flavor, but oh man, so good. Now I've got a cup of like a wild rice, long grain wild rice. We're gonna add this whole cup in here and stir all of that together. Now normally I would add about 6 cups of liquid to this, but I did add quite a few more vegetables. So we might end up adding more like 8 cups. I'm gonna start pouring it in and we will see what it looks like. And if you guys have been here for a while, you know that we usually use bone broth instead of chicken broth, but you can use whatever you prefer. Okay, so we add this in, but then we wanna scrape the bottom of the Instant Pot. This is gonna pull up any of the stuck on stuff at the bottom. I think I'm just gonna cover the vegetables, which is gonna be about 6 cups. That's right at 6 cups right there. Now, because I am using bone broth instead of chicken broth, I do want to make note of something. So the sodium content in bone broth is 320 milligrams. If you're using chicken broth, the sodium content is 510 milligrams. So with that said, you're obviously getting a lot less sodium, so you're getting less of a salty taste. You may want to add a little bit of salt to this just based on the flavors that you like. So just know that if you're subbing out and using bone broth instead, you sometimes may want to add salt depending on the recipe. Now, so I don't have to go digging, hopefully, we'll see. I'm gonna add in 2 bay leaves. They're kind of pieces, unfortunately, with where we are at. I'm gonna do my best to put them right here at the top. We'll see if they stay and I'll try and remember to pick them out. I don't know, let's put them kind of on the side. I wish I had larger bay leaves, but I need to order that in my next order. Okay, now the lid is gonna go on. We are gonna set to sealing and we are gonna pressure cook this on high for 25 minutes, not 4 hours, which is what it's currently set to. All right, 25 minutes, we'll let it naturally release for about 10 minutes, and then there's 2 more ingredients and it's ready to serve. All right, moment of truth. I feel like this is the scary thing about the Instant Pot is you never know what you're gonna get when you open it, because you can't see it while you're cooking. Okay, bay leaves, where are you? So I'm just gonna have to tell everybody to be on the lookout. Okay, well, now we're gonna add in a few more things. Now you can add in heavy cream or a half and half or something like that. I'm gonna use coconut milk because it's convenient, I have it. I'm gonna add in a full can. This is a 13.5, 14-ounce can of coconut milk. So we're just gonna add all that in. Maybe this will help us spot the bay leaf. And then I'm gonna add in some baby spinach and kale. I actually was just gonna do kale, but then when I saw this in the grocery store, I thought, we'll just add in some spinach too. Obviously you can skip this if you're not a fan. We're gonna just add some of this in and let it wilt, and then we're ready to eat. That's it. So easy, so good. I found it. Well, okay, I found the other one. Yes! Both have been accounted for. Now, obviously, if you want a more liquidy soup, you can add more. You guys adjust recipes to the things that you love. You guys know I say that kind of thing all the time. Let's give it a taste. You've got your rice, you've got the broth, sweet potato, carrot, celery. I mean, oh my goodness, all the things. It literally tastes like fall in a bowl. That's very good. Now, again, the one thing that I think that we might need to add is just a touch of salt, but that's because we use that bone broth instead of the chicken broth. But oh my goodness, it straight up tastes like fall. Cozy, heartwarming, love it. Love it. Because I added so many vegetables, I do wish I would have doubled the sausage. I think that would be perfect. Our verse today comes from John 5:24. Very truly I tell you, whoever hears my word and believes him who sent me has eternal life and will not be judged, but is crossed over from death to life. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you are new here, I would love if you would subscribe and stick around. If you like seeing soups like this, let me know. I would love to give you guys some more of these because these are so good. If you need more inspiration in the kitchen, check out the video that I have listed above. I love the recipes in here and you're not going to want to miss them. Have a great week.